7. Death, cyclical life. In the previous two segments, I looked at the sociological function of religion in resolving human conflicts when humans transition from small groups of hunter-gatherers nomads into immense cities and empires. In ancient West Asia, these conflicts were turned into conflicts among gods, and at the end, it ended with monotheism, like one empire that ruled all the cities. In ancient India and China, however, these urban conflicts were managed through hierarchical system. So religion became instrumental in managing human conflicts through rigid and defined roles. In the next two segments, we move away from religion's sociological purpose to its psychological role and how it explains death. In the first segment, I'll look at the Hindu cyclical order. In the next segment, I'll discuss the linear order of the Middle Eastern religious traditions. A. Hinduism. Hinduism is often considered a way of life because it encompasses a variety of religions and religious traditions. Its origin goes back to the Vedas, a series of religious texts. Thus, Hindu religions are also called Vedic religions. Despite differences of belief, there are some common beliefs that have remained central to all Hindus. Before I tell you what these common beliefs are, let me give you a bit of a background information. Hinduism is a polytheistic religion, meaning they believe in many gods and goddesses. Among these gods, three gods are important. Brahma is the creator god, Vishnu is the preserver god, and Shiva is the destroyer god. And they all make what is called Trimurti, or a Hindu trinity. Another important thing to note is that these gods come down to us in many forms or avatars. For example, Brahma, the creator god, has at least 7 different avatars. Vishnu has 10 and Shiva has 19. Also note that in Hinduism, gods can also be female, and the most famous one is Kali, the god of time, death and destruction. Most people mistake cows to be a Hindu god, but it is not true. A cow is a sacred animal among Hindus because it gives you milk, which is sacred nourishment. Even in modern farms, cows are kept alive as a milk source, while the male cows or the bulls are butchered for their meat. Also, you need one bull who can impregnate hundreds of cows. That's why farmers just keep one bull and thousands of cows. According to the Hindu mythology, Purusha is the first man who sacrificed himself to create all life. Therefore, he represents or symbolizes a universal being that lives within all living beings. Purusha and Brahman, the creator god, are the same being. But Purusha symbolizes the universal self or body, while Brahman is the universal soul or spirit that remains eternal. Also important to note that Brahman is also the universe or reality itself, and Atman is the inner self. In other words, what we consider the outside world and its intricate cosmic order in Hinduism is Brahman, while the inner self is Atman. To put simply, the Brahman is the universal soul that resides in the universe, and Atman is the individual soul which resides inside each individual being. But they are made of the same soul. So we are the same in one with the universe. But our senses make us believe that we are separate from the universe. But in reality, we are one and the same thing. This is why the notion of illusion is important in Hinduism. What we see in reality is often an illusion. We are deceived by our senses. Hinduism has 4 core concepts. The first is Dharma, which is translated as the good life or the virtuous way of living. This basically means living in accordance with the cosmic order or the law of the universe. The Indian caste system, which I explained in the previous segment, comes under Dharma as it explains people's placement within the cosmic order. There are many texts explaining Dharma and they are not the same. For example, Dharma Shastra explains this life in 4 stages: learning when you're young, living when raising a family, withdrawing when retiring from work, and detaching when wandering in the forest. Dharma is symbolized by a wheel called Dharma Chakra, which brings me to the second most important Hindu concept. In Hinduism, time is cyclical. So a wheel sitting on the Indian flag today represents that since time is cyclical, so is life. Under samsara or reincarnation, all living beings go through an eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth. So the goal for Hindus is to understand this reality, the cosmic order, and to align their action and behavior accordingly. Otherwise, you can become stuck in the wrong order of reincarnation. This brings me to the third important concept of Hinduism. Karma comes from the word karman or kri, meaning work in Sanskrit, which is the same in Persian word kar, meaning work. But in Hinduism, it refers to our actions, behaviors, and intentions and consequences throughout our lives. Today in the West, the word karma is used to refer to bad outcomes in this life. But in Hinduism, our good karma or action in this life can help us with a better rebirth or reincarnation. But is there an escape route from this endless life, death, and rebirth? Yes, there is. For Hindus, the ultimate goal of life is moksha, freedom from reincarnation. To liberate yourself from the endless cycle of life, death, and rebirth, you need to do three things. Live a virtuous, enlightened, and desire-free life. So a rational knowledge of reality, good karma, and saying no to your desires can liberate you from the endless cycle of reincarnation. The Hindu texts are called the Vedas, a series of hymns, stories, commentaries, and philosophical explanations. The first series of texts called Upanishads. These are very serious philosophical foundations of Hinduism, which had a huge influence on the German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, and his theory of the blind will to life is quite similar to the Hindu notion of the universal will that rules all living and non-living beings. So the Upanishads explain the cosmic reality, Brahman, and core concepts of Hinduism like Dharma, Karma, Samsara, and Moksha. The Brahmana is another important series of Hindu texts which are basically commentaries or interpretations on the Vedas. The third and fourth most important texts are the Mahabharata, the longest poem in the world, and Ramayana. They make up the Hindu myths and stories. So Hinduism encompasses a variety of religious traditions, but at its core, it believes in the cyclical nature of time and life. In other words, life is like seasons. We live, we die, we come back, up to repeat the same cycle over and over. Now you see the connection between agriculture and the Hindu religious belief in the cyclical notion of time. This is why Hindus are very chill about life and death. If you miss your train, don't worry. You catch a train in the next reincarnation. B. Buddhism. Buddhism was founded by Siddhartha Gautama, who lived between 563 and 483 BCE. He was a Hindu himself who had a problem with Hinduism. Despite being a wealthy prince, enjoying all the luxuries of life, he understood a simple fact that no matter where you are in life, despite your socioeconomic status, suffering is universal. For our nomadic hunter-gatherer ancestors, survival was the only thing on their mind. But for a rich prince who had everything in this life, he needed psychological comfort about death. Your wealth can protect you in this life, but it cannot protect you from the reality of death. The best way to explain Buddhism is to imagine you spend your entire life collecting precious things, and then imagine you losing them all at once. This is more painful than not having anything. This is why Buddhists think to suffer less, you must detach yourself from the material world. Being born blind at birth is less painful than going blind later on in life. This is why Buddhism is considered a religion of luxury, as it attracts the people who have the material things in life. Buddha was a prince, and today the princes of the world, like pop stars and rich actors, love meditation and their own Zen gardens. While the Buddha accepted the Hindu concept of cyclical time and endless reincarnation, he rejected a few important Hindu concepts. First, the Buddha rejected the Hindu caste system, which put the Brahmin priests at the top of social and religious hierarchy, giving them the full authority to conduct religious rituals and be the go-between you and the gods. Just like the Protestants rejected the authority of the Roman Catholic priests as go-between people and God or heaven, Buddhists did the same thing against the Brahmin priests, who basically held the key to the gods and heavens. With the rejection of the caste system, Buddhists also rejected the Hindu rituals and sacrifices that were very lively, extravagant, and noisy. Instead, Buddhism emphasized meditation, virtues, austerity, quietness, and most importantly, the Four Noble Truths about life's suffering. What are those noble truths? First, while life is impermanent, it is full of suffering. Second, we suffer because of our desires. Third, to end suffering, we must detach from our desires. And finally, to achieve all this, you must follow the path of the enlightenment paved by the Buddha, which is to conquer your desires and remove the self. This helps you liberate yourself from the endless cycle of reincarnation or simply the endless cycle of suffering. With the rejection of the Brahmin priests, the Buddha also rejected the Hindu concept of God. Since Buddhists believe nothing is permanent, there is no place for a permanent God or soul. This means gods are not necessary in your attempt to free yourself from the cycle of reincarnation. Instead, Buddhists believe you should rely on your own journey to achieve enlightenment. But the most important Buddhist break from Hinduism is the rejection of the Hindu concept of Atman, or the permanent soul that sticks with you for eternity despite the endless reincarnation. In Buddhism, Atman, the permanent soul or self, was replaced with Anatta, which means no self. Therefore, Buddhists don't believe in soul or self. So according to Buddhism, nothing is forever, which means why bother getting too attached to anything? But how is it possible that self doesn't exist? Buddhists believe the self exists insofar as it's constructed or made up of all its parts. But in reality, the totality we call the self is nothing but an illusion. We are made up of several changing elements: the physical body, senses, perceptions, ideas, consciousness, and motivations or desires, which are all changeable and wobbly. But by putting them all together, we say it is the self. The self cannot be a solid thing when its parts are constantly changing. So Buddhists believe that the self doesn't exist, but it is hijacked by our desires and urges, which make us to do things like pursue wealth, lust, fame, and power. But none of them make you happy, and the awareness of death only makes suffering more intense. So to avoid suffering, you must detach yourself from your desires and ultimately untie the self or kill the thing called the self. There are two main branches of Buddhism. The Theravada Buddhism, more common in Sri Lanka, Burma, Laos, Thailand, and Cambodia, follows a more orthodox and conservative Buddhism, closer to the Buddha's own philosophy of personal journey towards nirvana, or liberation from the cycle of reincarnation. Mahayana Buddhism, on the other hand, more common in Tibet, China, Korea, and Japan, emphasizes a more communal liberation. In other words, let's help each other to reach nirvana. Zen Buddhism, most common in Japan, is a branch of Mahayana Buddhism and with a strong influence from Taoism, argues that enlightenment is not just a permanent state in nirvana, but it is also possible in this life, in short moments and bursts, by clearing the mind from clutters. To achieve momentary enlightenment, we must create a condition for the mind, for example, a quiet, empty garden, to achieve spontaneous enlightenment that lasts a few moments. For Zen Buddhists, the mind needs to be liberated from stimuli and contents and thoughts. An empty mind is a free mind. An imprisoned mind is always stuck in the past regrets or future anxieties. But a liberated mind is always in the present. So Buddhism rejected the Hindu concept of God, a permanent soul, in order to free individuals from the caste system, the priests, and the endless Hindu rituals. Once freed, you are responsible to pursue enlightenment by detaching yourself from your desires and ultimately detach yourself from the self. See Jainism. Jainism, founded by Mahavira, who lived between 599 to 527 BCE, a contemporary of the Buddha and also from northern parts, and also rejected the notion of deity or gods, but also the hierarchical caste system. But unlike Buddhism, Jains still believe in the permanent soul in the same way Hindus do. But unlike Hinduism, Jainism put the responsibility of achieving freedom from reincarnation on the shoulders of the individual person. Personal autonomy and responsibility are important to Jainism. One of the most unique aspects of Jainism is a strict vegetarian diet due to the belief that we have no right to harm not only other humans but also animals. Unlike Buddhism, which spread to many countries, is almost non-existent in India today, Jainism is exclusively practiced in India and among the Indian diaspora. The social dynamics among the Jains is very similar to the rest of India. D. Sikhism. Sikhism was founded by Guru Nanak, who lived in 1469 to 1539 in Punjab, modern-day Pakistan, which accepts the Hindu concept of reincarnation as well as many rules of Dharma. But Sikhism rejects the Hindu caste system, worshipping of the religious idols, and polytheism. Instead, Sikhs believe in one God called Vaheguru, the Creator God. Sikhs also have a very strong belief in the idea of justice, especially protecting the defenseless in society. Some consider Sikhism to be like a warrior religion because of sword or kirpan is a must-have item for the followers, along with bracelet, untrimmed hair, comb, and a sacred underwear. In addition, Sikhism values honor and courage, which is often associated with the warrior class. Sikhs are also initiated into what's called Khalsa, which means pure and exclusive religious order. The political movement among Sikhs seeking independence from India is called Khalistan, or the land of the pure, just like Pakistan means the land of the clean. So to sum up, the Indian religious traditions believe in a cyclical concept of time and life. In other words, we live, die, and be born, and a cycle that is endless. While animism was the religion of the hunter-gatherer nomads who were always in the move, Hinduism is the religion of the agricultural aristocrats, educated and sophisticated, who didn't get their hands dirty to grow food and never worried about not having enough food. They just saw how seasons came and went, crops grew and seeds were planted. This is a religion 2.0. Hinduism has a very sophisticated philosophy and a deep rational tradition. In the next segment, we move from a cyclical notion of life and death to a religious tradition that saw time moving in one direction, a linear notion of life and death. We'll move to western part of Asia to discuss Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.